Welcome to BG5 Live, the show for BG5 and human design professionals, students, and enthusiasts who want a better and deeper understanding of how to apply human design to business so that they can thrive in their careers and support their clients in doing the same. Over to you, Mike. Or back to me. So we are expanding. In addition to being able to join us live every second and fourth Tuesday right here, you can also watch the replays on YouTube as well as listen to them on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We'll be sure to drop the links for the current episode in the show notes wherever you are watching or listening. And we are excited to have you here with us. Also, if you are watching or listening on a platform where you can respond, we would love to hear your thoughts, your questions. Please comment, like all of that good stuff. It makes a really big difference for us.
And hello, everyone. Michael Brown, back to you on our BG5 Live. Big day today. It's Vanessa's birthday. I'm gonna spare us all sing happy birthday, but let's give her birthday wishes. Happy birthday, Vanessa. We have a good show. So it's in the middle of the summer. It's hot. It's kind of sweltery, but we got some good guests here today. So before we do that, before I turn it back over to Vanessa, today's weather, besides hot, 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 wherever we are, here's our cosmic weather. So today is a 6-line day, which means that have a big sort of overarching perspective, looking down, sort of more objective. If you're feeling like this is the end of the week where the storyteller is in the 56. Both Vanessa and I, we talked about it in our last show, the 56. So we are storytellers. We're always telling stories in our classes and our podcasts, and it's just part of our DNA. So that's coming to an end later today. It was going to be moving on. So Vanessa is going to show us what's coming in the next few weeks with her cosmic weather. She does a great job with this. I really love this. So Vanessa, turning it over to you.
Thank you, Mike. And I also just wanted to say, so it is a leap year this year. So even though today is a 6 quality or a 6-line day, technically my public role or profile is a 5-1. However, my actual solar return, so the sun actually returned to the place where it was at the time of my birth, was yesterday because of that leap year, but the actual date of my birth is today. So you guys might have that same experience this year when your birthday comes up. So tomorrow morning at 7:01 a.m. Eastern Time, the sun is going to be moving into trait 31, which is a leadership trait. It's the trait of influence. And for those of you listening, this sits on the communication and action function, also known as the throat center in human design. It is the square that is third from the top of the body graph. And on the bottom left side of that square sits trait 31. So this is leadership, it's influence. It is the voice that says, I lead, and it's designed to be influential and provide leadership toward a future direction. This can influence others for good or not by effectively sharing a vision for a new and testworthy pattern that will secure the future. So this is in the logic thematic. And it's future oriented. It can influence people in a positive way. And it's important to be aware of the influence. And this needs to be recognized because it is a projected trait. It needs to be recognized in order to be effective. And it also needs to be invited. This leadership is elected leadership. And the potential of this leadership is manifested through election, through the recognition. And it's important that it takes into account the desires of the followers and addresses the good of the whole. This is in the sharing collective thematic. This is about the good of the whole, and it's about transferring one's influence and moving into the collective realm. Now, this trait is also a pentatrait. And what that means is when you are in a small group, if this is a trait that you have to find in your chart, meaning if you're looking at it, it is colored in, this is going to automatically morph into the skill of administration whenever you're in a small group. And that means this is something that comes naturally to you. You may not necessarily like it, but you can be naturally good at it. It's something that's easy for you to learn, and other people will recognize it in you. So when this morphs into the skill of administration in a business, this is the ability to put the plan into action by making sure that everyone fills their role and does the work that is necessary. It is very, very much about being organized and staying on top of things. This is the energy that literally takes the plan and administers it, puts it into action. It gives everyone the roles that they need to fulfill so the plan can be carried out. And this is really important to have in business. There's an ability here to see who does what best, like who is best for a certain role. And it develops systems and policies for servicing the customer base, customer services here as well, and the inner workings of a business. So having things like a chain of command, policies, employee manuals, and all of these things that make the business more efficient. So if you have this defined in your chart, this is something that you are naturally going to be recognized for and potentially very good at when you are working in small groups. Mike, do you have anything to say about this one?
Only that I don't have this particular trait in my design. So I have the flip side. I have the 7. So
Which is also
today,
going to be transiting, so you get to talk about that one.
no. So I'll have more to say with the 7. So the 31 influence is the voice for leadership. The way that's how I would interpret it for myself. So I can be a leader, and with the 31, when I'm paired with 31s, that leadership sort of extends outward. So it'd be interesting. Our guest Andrea, who you're going to meet in a few minutes, she has the whole strength, so she gets to give us the bigger picture perspective in a moment. Let's continue on. Vanessa, where are we going next?
All right. So on July 30th at 4:18 a.m. Eastern Time, we are going to be moving to the mirror of this, which is trait 33, the trait of retreat. And again, it's at the bottom of the communication and action function, but on the right side. And so we are still in the sharing, thematic, or the collective circuitry, but now we're on the abstract experiential side. And this is about retreat. It is people who carry this require regular alone time and withdrawal so they can reflect. This is actually one of the 3 traits of aloneness. The retreat marks the end of a cycle. And this is that moment where you take the time to pause and reflect over the experience so that you can prepare for the next cycle. And this is also where the most valuable lessons will come in. They'll come to the surface. The truths of the experiences that you've been through will come up during this time. And it's about being able to share this with others for the good of others and even the good of a group or of a business. So you'll see this is also a business skill. And this is, again, a projected strength. So when the time is correct, this will be called out. Somebody will ask for your wisdom, the contribution that you have to share about your experiences. And it's about maturing over a lifetime through your cycles. And people that have this trait defined have potential to be very powerful teachers or speakers. Now, again, if you are in a small group or in a business setting and you have this trait defined in your chart, it's going to morph into the skill of oversight, meaning others will recognize this skill in you. You might be naturally good at it. You may or may not like it, but it's something that will come easy to you and that is easy for you to learn. And it's the ability to oversee the entire operation and make sure everything is running smoothly. It's the eyes and the ears of the operation. This is where you look over the past, learn the necessary lessons from the past of the business in order to apply them in a way to successfully move forward. And this is also where people are watched over just to, keep people on track. So it's making sure that what needs to get done gets done, making sure people know what they need to be doing and are actually doing it, and handling complaints, issues with customers or employees. And by doing all that, you create loyalty in the business. Do you have any experience with this one, Mike? I don't think you have it, but
Yeah, I don't have it. I was kind of looking at the description and listening to you when you were talking. I imagine people with the trait 33, they need a cave, someplace to sort of hide, and it should be just theirs. They kind of go and they do and they recharge. And it's probably one of those places in design where you are like, you have full on permission to take a nap whenever you need it, just to relax, recharge. But know that if you have the 33, that downtime, that alone time, that, just going into your special space means that you're also assimilating the experiences from whatever cycle that you're completing. So that period of rest has a lot of benefits to it. So in our culture, which is really about go, go, go and hustle, we don't often take time to retreat, relax. So if you have this in your design, you have full permission, carte blanche to chill out when you need to. Moving on. This is one of my favorite traits in my design. Take it away, Vanessa.
Yeah, because you have this one and you do this so well. So on August 5th at 1:19 a.m. Eastern, the sun will be moving into the energy of trait 7, which is the leader. And we're moving back into the logic thematic here. And this is logical leadership based on a plan oriented towards the future. And this leadership brings new rhythms and patterns into the collective that brings security so that we all feel confident moving into the future. There's an ability to see where the present direction needs correcting in order to get to where we want to go. And there is this constant perfection of leadership here. There are different leadership roles. So if you have this trait defined, depending on what quality or line you have on this trait, we have the authoritarian leader, the Democrat, the anarchist, the abdicator, the general, and the administrator. So they can show up very differently here. And you might be the one that evaluates or modifies the existing patterns or questions the direction that is then the catalyst for creating a new direction. And there's also this ability to persuade others to follow your logical leadership. And thereby you are influencing people in a position of influence. So I've actually often have heard this referred to as the chief of staff and the 31 being the president. So it's that you're influencing those that are leading as well. And again, this is another penta skill. So if you have this defined and you are in a small group, you will naturally be recognized for your skill of planning. So again, we are in the logical thematic over on the side. It's about moving forward successfully into the future through planning, research and development, and having the right people doing the right work and identifying what needs to happen logically as we move forward. So you can adjust the products and services to ensure success, and also understanding the marketplace, understanding what your customers want and need, and really keeping up with progress in this department. There's planning here, scheduling, resources, and again, having the right people doing the right work at the right time to fulfill the needs of your customers. So planning is always an ongoing process, and it's really important to have this and to maintain momentum in order to provide the future for the business. And I know you too have this one, Mike, so I'd love to hear your experience with it. And I will say, as somebody that works with you quite a lot and is also a student of yours, uh, I think you are an excellent example of having this trait. And I very much recognize and appreciate your leadership.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So I have a story. I have the 56. I'm the storyteller. So here's my story. I grew up in one of those neighborhoods as a child where there was just so many kids. We had a small neighborhood, but there was maybe 50 kids. And so, there was like older kids and there's younger kids and sort of, somewhere in the middle. I was in the middle and we had we called ourselves a little gang. I think we even gave ourselves a name. And so we would somehow congregate around my house. We had a basketball hoop and, we'd play things like kick the can. So I remember many summers where there would be about 20 kids and we were playing basketball and my younger sister was there and she was wrestling her friend for the ball. Like they were both like, it's mine, no, it's mine, it's mine. They were doing that classic young person thing. And they turned to me and they said, Mike, whose ball is it? And I was, I don't know why, but it was one of these kind of watershed moments for me. And I looked at them, I said, I don't understand, why are you asking me? Because you're our leader. That's what they said to me. You're our leader. No, that's not a it's not a bragging story. That was just the energy that was kind of in my field. And that was the first time when I really began to see myself through that lens. Wow, I am a leader. And I recognize that that happened in a lot of different places. So we have our guest today has that. And so I'm going to be curious when we talk to Andrea about how that looks. So if you have the 7 or the 731, you probably have similar stories where you've been singled out or noticed as a leader. But there's nuances that we'll talk about in a moment too.
And also, I forgot to say this part for those that are listening. So the trait 7 sits on the communication and action function, also known as the G center in human design. It is the diamond shape in the middle. It is on the left side pointing up. And if you have that colored in your chart, that means you have this trait defined and have consistent access to it. And
So
we have a
before we jump on, sorry, Vanessa. So you Vanessa did she brought in something really helpful. She talked about the not only the trait, which is the 7, which is the leader, but she talked about the quality, or in human design terms, the line. That shows you how you are meant to lead. And she sort of gave you those 6 keynotes. What that can be really important in the sense, like for example, I'm the trait 7, but quality 5. So that's the general and the practical. So what I noticed over the years is I can step into a leadership position. I help solve problems. I give practical solutions to things, but then it's important to step out of the way. That's a real quality of the fifth line. And so I recognize if I stay in and sort of I kind of muck up the process, and people like get out of here. So you can refine your leadership style based on the qualities that Vanessa was just talking about in a minute. Vanessa, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Thanks for sharing the space.
All right, so we're going over quite a few transits on this particular episode because we run BG5 Live every second and fourth Tuesday, and July happens to be a 5 Tuesday month. So we'll have 2 weeks off instead of 1 week, which is why we're going over so many traits. So the last transit we'll be covering today is going to be taking place on August 10th at 11:07 p.m. or 22:07 Eastern Time. And this is trait 4. This is formalization and answers. And this sits on the conceptualization function or the ajna center in human design. It is the second triangle from the top pointing down. And this is on the right side pointing up towards the inspiration function or head center. And this is about formalization and answers and this is about the ability to formulate logical answers. This is in the very beginning of the logical thematic or circuitry. And it's formulating logical answers, applying your awareness to patterns and to what isn't consistent. And so this is about mental awareness to formulate these logical answers when you have enough information. And remember that the answers are only potentials. These are not facts. These have not been proven. This is just the beginning of that process of creating a hypothesis. So eventually these answers will need to be tested in order to become facts. So you want to use or you may use your mental intelligence here to judge what looks suspicious and doesn't actually fit the pattern. And there can be mental anxiety here. So the conceptualization function is an awareness center and our mental anxieties live here. So when you don't have the answer, there can be mental anxiety here. And you want to let the answer just come to you naturally. Just allow your mind to do its own thing. The answer will come in the right timing. And when the time is right, you'll also be asked to share your answer. So this is not about trying to force an answer or trying to force figuring it out, because that is just going to create more anxiety. The answers that you formulate here are best applied to questions that come from people around you. This is collective or sharing thematic. So this is not about turning this in on yourself. And you want to always make sure to rely on your decision-making strategy, or in human design, your authority, and not let your mind try to make your decisions for you, because this is where we tend to go when we override our decision making strategy. So you want to really find the answers, or like what decision you need to make from your defined centers from your defined decision-making strategy that lives in your body and not in your mind. And when you do that, you'll be guided to the right answers at the right time. And there can be the fear here of chaos, or that of not understanding something and really needing that clarity.
Nice, nice, nice. Vanessa, I
I,
had a
I
student.
actually have a little story here because I don't have
Okay,
this
go ahead.
one. It's so funny because I have so much definition in my chart that usually I have at least one of the traits that are transiting. In this case, I don't have any of them. And I do have a defined conceptualization function, but I don't have this trait defined. However, my partner has it defined. And I do notice now sometimes when I'm in his aura, when we're together, every now and then, if some doubt creeps in and I realize, oh, that's actually his doubt, that's not my own. So that has been an interesting little experience with this particular energy for me.
Good story, good story. I had a student who had the four. It was early on in my BG5 teaching career. She would ask me the deepest, consistent, constant questions. And she would get so mad at me if I didn't give her an answer that made sense to her. I used to try to tell her, like, it's okay. The answers will come at some point. It was just, you could feel the pressure. It was like she was pulling the answers out of me. Uh, yeah, it was an interesting experience. Okay, I'm going to take this one. Strength 731, the whole strength of leadership. Yes. Like Vanessa's been talking about, logical elected leadership. I have a story about that. I'll tell you in a minute. This is the potential to lead others safely into the future with influence. Leadership based on tested and established patterns that can be followed with certainty. But first, you must earn the trust by understanding the needs of those you lead. Success and ability to lead others comes not when you're trying to do it all yourself. The more reluctant you are to assume the position of leadership, the better you are at it. And the voice carries the quality of influence, but must be invited or elected by the majority to lead. So here's my story, always with the stories. You're going to hear the keynotes in the story. So a bunch of years ago, I was really into outdoor leadership. So I used to lead groups of kids on rock climbing trips and backpacking and doing mountaineering and sea kayaking, all these kind of wonderful trips. And before I started that whole process, I did a training. So I went on a mountaineering trip in sort of the place called the White Mountains. It's in New England, northeast part of the United States. And we had all these leaders come together, and they were all sort of hungry to show like who's the best leader. So it was about 10 of us. And there was something inside of me that said, I don't want any part of this. So it was this 5-day wilderness trip. And I saw all this jockeying. I'm like, I'm just gonna just sit back and watch. So Mondays goes by, Tuesday goes by, and sort of all this infighting. The group is really chaotic. And then on the third day, there's a couple of people in the group who just turned to me and says, Mike, what do you think about this? And at that point, leadership transferred over to me. And again, this isn't bragging. This is just part of who I am. It's just part of my design. So I had been watching the group. I knew the dynamics. I knew who was good at, what. And so this elected thing, it wasn't anything formal. It was just the leadership got passed. It was as if there was a baton being held up. And then the group decided, okay, you're the best person to do that. Part of that process was me not asserting leadership. I've tried that. I've had a lot of trial and error with that. So I never try to assume leadership of a group unless sort of that baton in some way, some form energetically is handed over to me. That's part of it. And part of my, like I said before, part of my leadership is to recognize other people. That's how my influence shows up, my ability to recognize. This is, like Vanessa said, it's a projected or an advisor type of strength or trait. And so your ability to recognize others sort of brings them into sort of this alignment moving forward into the future. So with that, Vanessa, thank you so much. You did a wonderful job as always on the cosmic weather. Love to hear your sort of take on things. Gives us a sense of what's coming in the next couple of weeks. Let's move on to our guests, who is a fellow student, aficionado of BG5, Andrea Mathis. Woo, welcome. Here's Andrea in her design. Andrea came to my class. She showed up 5 weeks late, but she just, I said, you're 5 weeks behind. Do you think you can be able to do this? Like, yes, I'll be right on track. So within, a couple days, she was like, she had watched all the downloads. She was ready to go. Andrea has this wonderful ability to sort of take in the information, assimilate it, but she's one of those students who pulls out information in a wonderful way. She's also very accomplished. She's been working in the banking industry, the coaching industry. She comes to us from Switzerland. Andrea, welcome. Nice to have you. So Andrea,
Welcome,
would you
Andrea.
like to?
Hi, thanks for having me here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
Yeah, and thank you also for all these cosmic weather forecasts, Vanessa. And happy birthday, by the way. Didn't know that before. All the best to you. I mean, Vanessa is a kind of a brain when it comes to human design. I mean, whatever she says, it's like reading a book. It's amazing to hear from me. And I'm also quite honored to be a guest here. In fact, you were talking about the trait 33, which I also happen to have, even unconsciously. But it's funny what you mentioned about closing a cycle and resting afterwards, chilling. That's something I like. And I feel like I have completed a lot of cycles in my life already. And I'm about to finish a very big cycle in my life. It's this in human design, then they call it the Uranus opposition. And it's going to close, or the peak point will be on 8th of August, so pretty soon, actually. And I'm quite curious what happens in that period and what will come into my life in the next few years. And I'm pretty sure it has something to do with being on stage, because I get these type of invitations that I have today quite often in recent weeks, and they're coming out of nowhere. I don't even publish anything on social media or anything like that. It's just happening. And so, yeah, let's see where this leads us to. And speaking about leading, yes, this is the topic of today, the 731. This is a channel I happen to have, partly conscious, partly unconscious. And as we are still in the storytelling period, I can still tell a little story about that as it might feel from an initiator's perspective. And I was thinking about it, how can I experience that on a very practical, emotional level, something that appeared to me strange, but now it's just making so much sense. And it's a story I had with my husband. We were hiking up the mountains. And as you know, I'm living in Switzerland, which has a lot of mountains, not like what you see right now in my background. It's very artificial here. So we are usually hiking up the Alps quite often. And then also you must know that I have a completely open willpower function, which makes it sometimes made it very challenging to be in a competitive situation. But this plays into the 731 experience right now. So my husband is a very, very energetic, very strong builder personality. And he's also very fit, very energetic in hiking. And I can be fit in hiking if I want to. So I'm a bit more moody on that regard. And then actually we were hiking up the mountains, and whenever I followed my husband, I kind of wasn't that motivated. So I was always like, yeah, okay, I'm just following. And it came to the point that it didn't make sense anymore. I was really so moody, I didn't want to move on anymore. And then actually, whenever I would change a position, whenever I'm a leader, when I'm in front hiking up the mountain, my husband actually struggles to to really cope with me, because I've got such an energy. I don't know, things are really great and it feels so empowering. And I feel like I'm finally there. I feel myself, and I don't know when to stop. It's actually extremely, I can walk for 7, for 8, for 9 hours, and in a pace which I don't even recognize myself anymore. And this is for me, it's a very typical description of this 731 channel. When I'm in a leadership position, magic happens, and I'm actually getting into the field, and I'm creating new things in a way that I normally don't, actually, when I'm in a more like a retreat 33 area. And actually, it's quite interesting to follow. It's something like playing another person's game, and I'm kind of partly involved, but I'm doing my thing, I'm doing my tasks, but I will be at best average. When I'm a leader, when I'm in a leadership position, I'm over average, and I know that beyond any doubt.
So Andrea, was there a time you like my story when I was younger? Do you have a similar story when you first began to understand, wow, I have this quality of leadership in my, you didn't know it was in your design, but you probably saw it or felt it in some way. Do you have a story like that?
I mean, you must know I grew up in a big family. I've got 7 or 6 younger siblings, and I was naturally the oldest of a group of 7, and it kind of automatically put me in a leadership position. And I realized that my younger siblings, they would often copy me, which I didn't like, actually. I mean, I really wanted to be free and independent and do my own thing. And so I actually wasn't such a democratic leader when I was a child. Actually, I was often shouting at them, putting them into their positions, and I was a little bit more rude. Not to all, but to the ones that copied me most. And actually didn't like to be an influencer at all. I mean, I like to have my peace, my harmony, my environment, and my own way. And this is where it was very hard to cope with over the years. And actually now when I'm organized, or I happen to organize meditation retreats for a large group of people many times already. And actually, I didn't even think about that, but every time I do that, people tell me I've got such a skill to organize retreats and events, and it's always like a guaranteed good event, and they're coming to the events because I'm organizing. I didn't know that at the beginning. I would have not even trusted me to do that, but it happened automatically. And I've got some sort of a big picture when I organize an event. I know exactly what to do when, and who to delegate, also which people to ask for what tasks, and then also it's quite natural for me to keep a control over it, and in a way to also do it very fast. I'll always be in time then, and I can also structure it very logically, and also at the same time having a lot of fun. And I'm also having this channel 1222, which allows me probably to listen to people very carefully on a very different levels. And this helps me in organizing such events in a way that people feel understood, and it doesn't seem like manipulative or dominant at all. I don't think so. It feels like they're part of the game, and I also have a very strong feeling of what their needs are, what they want, and how they feel comfortable, and I can arrange it in a way that it suits the majority of the group.
So interesting to hear your story. You know, after a certain point when you're trained in human design and BG5, you start to hear keynotes in people's the way they talk and way they tell stories. So there's a lot of keynotes. I'm not going to go into it all now. Here's something I'm really curious, and then I'll see if Vanessa or Jane have any questions. So you have this elected leader. So elected essentially means, you know, you let someone else sort of pick you out from the crowd and say, hey, would you be our leader, like we were talking about before? But you're also an initiator or a manifestor in human design terms, who is designed to initiate, designed to step forward and take action. Do you notice, based on what you've known so far and from your experience, how to be a really good initiator leader at the same time?
Mm-hmm. I think it's very it's a delicate thing. Actually, I was asking this question to myself a lot, and there might still be a lot of things I'm not fully aware of. But I know I can initiate things out of nothing, out of nowhere. That works. When it comes to leadership, it was rather sometimes frustrating in the past, and I also know why. It's probably this waiting for the right moment, for the right opportunity, and also acknowledging that there might not be leadership opportunities every year or even every year. I mean, every day, actually. So it's like something that's, it really seems to be a quality that has to be called, and people have to recognize me in that way from my expertise. And then I also have struggles because I don't feel so much the need to speak in front of public when it comes to social media. I'm rather shy in these aspects, and it's probably also an initiator thing. It's the topic about informing. I sometimes don't know why I should inform these people. Why is it even worth it, actually? And then these doubts often come in for these things, and then I rather stay in my cave. I feel comfortable there. So it's sometimes question, how do people recognize me if I'm in the hiding? But then I also think that's there is another kind of calling. It must be, because even if I was in the hiding for the last couple of years, I felt like there was something called, actually. Some people recognized me or remembered me at the right place, right moment, and or some opportunity. I felt an inner calling, even that's now coming out. It's now time for me to be on stage again. This is what I feel about being on stage in general right now. I never had this feeling in my life at all. Rather stayed in my cave instead of on stage. And it's coming now. It's like something that's really pulling me. It's not somebody that is asking or pulling me out. It's something inside, but I don't know exactly how to describe it. And I feel like I'm almost pushed on stage, almost. And even though there is a lot of resistance sometimes, and the more open I am, the easier it goes on that side. But I feel this is probably the combination of this projected channel 731 and in combination with the initiator energy. I can only explain it like that, but it's a mystery. I'm still observing myself on that aspect. It's very, very hard to say.
So having known you for a while, so almost a year, give or take, I have snapshots. I remember you from the beginning when we first met to now and times in between. Your frequency has shifted. The timbre of your voice, the way that you express, the way that you talk. And I also hear in the words that you're saying that you're coming more and more into alignment with your design. And so much is shifting with that. So we talk about in BG5 and human design, you find you're moving towards your more authentic or your true self. And so when that happens, things begin to change, not only inside, but outside. So your stories are a real testament to that. So I'm really appreciating watching your trajectory over the past 9, 10, 11, 12 months. So good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Vanessa, do you have any questions for Andrea?
Well, I always have tons. However, I'm trying to keep them to the 731, and it's so funny because when it's a strength that like I don't have either one of the traits, which is not that common for, I'm like, I don't even know where to start. But it has been really cool. I mean, I've known you pretty much the same amount of time as Mike. And it's been really cool to hear your story today. I'm so excited that you came on. I knew when this strength was transiting, I remembered like Andrea has this strength. Let's invite her. And I am so grateful that you're here and sharing your experience. And I'm excited to see how this all develops in the future as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, me too. Actually, it's like it seems at the moment there is magic happening. It's really something. I had a bit of a, let's say, a dry period when it comes to magic events. I was in a bit of a purpose finding process in the last couple of years. And I also feel like this has a lot to do with the current systems, especially the working systems we have in this world. It's less and less motivating for a lot of people. I feel that. And it's probably also one of the topics in this 731 strengths is like to see the patterns, to see systems, and to also probably find new solutions. And in a way, I feel like my time is probably only coming in some stage in the future, because what I feel it's like the frustration of this current system is actually has reached a peak. And I think this is probably going a little bit further until it bursts. And then there will be lots of new things happening in this world. I'm pretty sure about that. And we see it in every country, in every culture. The system as it is right now is so tiring on a fundamental motivational level of most people. It only is good for those people actually who stick to the old system, but it's not good for the majority of people. And so this is something that is interesting for me more and more. I'm actually going through this suffering myself, to really experiencing it in a deep level, and also to potentially see a change. And it's also quite interesting that I'm in a position right now where I'm doing exactly that. I'm consulting or coaching corporates in Switzerland at this stage which are in transformational processes. And what I see is exactly what I feel. It's people are so frustrated. There is a lack of communication, of honest communication, because everybody's just trying to play the old game, and they're not aware that the world is changing right now, and it should be time to open up, to speak about it, to speak what really should be changed, and finally to also go through that change and transformation, because it's resistance that cannot be sustained for much longer anymore, in my view. So it has to open up at some stage.
Vanessa, did you hear her passion? It was just coming through so strong. So here's another question for you, Andrea, and Vanessa, you can chime in here. So you have the 1222. So we're going to go into human design BG5 speak for a moment. So no part of anyone's design lives in isolation. Anytime you see, when you look at a chart, you'll see quality. So right now we're focusing on the 731. We've talked about all the different qualities of that leadership. But for Andrea, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. That's there, but it exists side by side. So her 1222, it's the strength of socialness, which is also about passion. So here's my question for you, Andrea. Do you notice that your leadership changes based on how passionate you are on the topic, on the subject, on the area?
For sure. That's total link, actually. I mean, if I'm not motivated to lead a group, or if I think the most challenging thing is for me if I see a group of people that doesn't want to change. And there are many, actually, because they're afraid of the future, of getting to know themselves deeply and clearly. These people, actually, I think I've got one chance. I tell them, if they don't accept, or if they're not open, I don't want to force them, actually. So I let them their time, let them do their things, but then I naturally withdraw from that group, because there is no action for me there, no purpose. And I let them have their own misery or their own change of processes, whatever comes. So there I lose my patience. And it's sometimes difficult for me to understand when that time comes, when there is still something to do, to change, to open them up, and when there is nothing to do, when they want to have their own rhythm, their own pattern. And that's something for me. I had some painful experiences in the past with that topic, because I tended to stay too long in toxic environments where I thought I can change something, but I eventually had to admit they didn't want to change. So, and if it's the majority, then it's kind of, this willpower is stronger than your own willpower. If it's an environment of like-minded people, I actually thought, I realized I have to get out of it to save my energy, to save my motivation. So this is what I feel there. But in general, if I'm in the right environment, I'm very motivated. If I see there are open people around me, or people who are willing to change, I'm actually getting into a very nice flow, and I can change them a lot. I can change them in a very beneficial way, not in a dominant way, because I really don't think I'm a dominant leader. I'm rather somebody who wants to be changing the process together with others. But it's clearly, as an initiator, I do have this topic quite strongly. I'm not like a builder. I don't really, whenever it comes to me to do all the tasks, also in organizing events, I'm getting tired of it, and I'm actually not motivated for it anymore. So I won't do it again. I will just do it once. But if I have an environment that is open and receptive and also appreciates my efforts in that way and also helps me to organize, then I'm going to do it again and again, and it will be better each time. So this is to that, yes.
Nice, nice. Thank you. That was wonderful. And again, your passion comes out even about leadership. You know, you have this really clear sense of what you're passionate about, how you can influence, and you can feel when you're not being received. And so you sort of move on. So we have a guest on BG5 Live. So by the way, if you do want to attend live, not too many people do. A lot of people will download with us, but if you do want to participate, you are welcome to show up. So we have Jane Welling. Jane, you don't have to have a question, but is there anything you would like to ask Andrea? Anything bubbling to the surface for you?
I guess not really.
That's okay.
But thank you.
Yes, no worries. Vanessa, any last question to ask Andrea?
No, I think that's all for today. So glad that you were here, and it was really awesome to hear your passion and your enthusiasm about everything that you're doing in your leadership.
So Andrea, I'm going to put you on the spot. Any last message, anything one more thing you'd like to say to our audience about leadership, BG5?
Yeah, it's like there are many thoughts in my head. I mean, about passion, it's something I like that you recognize that so easily on me. Sometimes inside, I feel like, wow, what's my passion? I question that to myself quite a lot. And I'm also sometimes not quite sure why I'm really here, because I think this is probably an initiator thematic, because in a way, it seems when I first heard about initiator type, I thought, oh, what a disadvantage. I mean, compared to all these builders and access builders, they have got so much energy. They're perfectly made for our time, which is so high paced. And it's like, it took me quite some time to become friend with that energy type. And on the other hand, it's also often not understood. I mean, people in human design, BG5, they understand it. They might react if they're aware of this type of different energy. But to have this energy, which most people don't understand, it's quite a thing sometimes. And it sometimes also frustrates me quite a bit to not feel understood. I have to use all my skills to communicate, to say it out loud, and to really analyze the situation. And it often happens when I'm in the wrong environments that people don't really understand what I'm saying. And then actually for me, it's always it's a privilege, and it's an absolute, yeah, it's fantastic to be in the right environment where people are open to listen, where people are receptive and open to other energy types and open to the real authenticity of people in general. I think this is what we need in the future to move on to a more peaceful place. And yeah, this is again probably the signature piece as an initiator. It's very true for me. Peace actually is above everything. And often I actually misunderstand, or how to say that in English. I confuse it with the word of retreating, right? For me, sometimes retreat means peace, but it's actually not true, because peace or retreat can become frustration if you feel like there is nothing to do for you here. Nobody calls you, no inner calling, nothing. And so for me, it's very important to really experience peace while I'm doing what I'm good at, and also to also have my strengths being used for society, for the good, for humanity, maybe for the big, maybe just the small. I'm quite open to these type of options. But in general, I'm very, very open to any changes on this planet, because I think it needs it. And we have beautiful changes ahead, I'm sure, but also challenging ones, because to leave an old system behind is painful, because we have to also leave our own thinking patterns behind, which belong to the old system. And we want to be open for the new one. And then we actually just experience better and lighter feelings. So yeah, thanks again for having me on stage here. It was a real pleasure also to experience my English again after so many months. It's kind of dying in this Swiss German speaking world. So I'm very glad to be on stage again.
I would have never guessed that you haven't been speaking English for months. You sound as fluent and easy as, you know, a native speaker. Oh, Andrea, it was so good to hear you, and you're such a role model for, you know, one of the ways that I would encapsulate a lot of the topics that you've been sharing with us today is you're a bridge, and you sort of like, you're really aware of here's the old paradigm, here's the new, but I think part of your role, part of your calling is to create a pathway to what's happening next. Won't happen overnight, but a lot of people, as you identified in your coaching practice and your work with larger groups, you're seeing that there's a lot of dissatisfaction in the old, and you're looking for the new. And that's so much about what leadership is about, especially in the terms of under the umbrella of the 7 and the 31, is forward-looking thinking. How do we go from here to here in a way that's helpful, systematic, and sort of step by step? That's you, and you're really passionate about it. So we look forward to seeing how you shape the future for not just yourself, but for a lot of other people. It was so nice to have you. Yay! Vanessa, you did a wonderful job with the cosmic weather today. We'll be on not in 2 weeks, but 3 weeks.
August 13th in 3 weeks. And wherever you are watching the replay or listening, check the show notes for exciting upcoming things at the BG5 Business Institute. There's always new classes starting if you want to go deeper with this information. And you can find all of that in the show notes. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a good couple weeks. Bye,
Bye.
Vanessa. Bye, Andrea. Bye, Jane.
Bye. Bye.